Okay, well, it is 11:01 and I want to go ahead and get started. We do have other participants that are going to be joining us. And Tina, I know it's going to be like a little bit whack-a-mole. It looks like we don't have people muted upon entry. So if you will, as you're admitting people, just mute their microphone at the same time. We have over 100 people registered for this webinar. So a lot of interest in the topic. And we're so grateful to Frannie Horn for being with us this morning. We also want to thank our sponsors, without whom we could not be doing these types of things. So if you work for any of these companies, please thank them for sponsoring Momentum and supporting our mission to advance women in leadership. We so very much appreciate their support year round. I also want to mention that we have just announced our open registration, keynote speakers, and the dates for the Momentum Conference. So a lot of you may have been at the last Momentum Conference in 2020. And if so, you remember it was the last one before the whole city went down on lockdown. So we are excited that plans are moving forward for this conference to happen in person. Will be 2 days, March 16th and 17th. So please mark your calendars and you'll get some information about how to register online coming very soon.
We're being resilient because resilient is the ability to cope and adapt successfully in adversity. So now we have our technical things worked out. I am Frannie Horn, and as I said, I'm a 2004 alumna of Momentum. I'm an associate licensed counselor in Alabama and associated with Apollo Counseling. I'm also a giant word nerd. So my favorite book is the dictionary. So I always like to start talking about topics with the definition of what we're talking about, because we want to have some focus and make sure we're all on the same page with what we're talking about. So I have up on the screen, hopefully, fingers crossed, the definition of the word resilient, which is an adjective, which is capable of withstanding shock without permanent deformation or rupture. So that's another way of saying the ability to bounce back. And then we also have the noun, which is resilience, which is the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. And these just come from the dictionary. And as we've been in the last 18 months, resilience and being resilient have certainly been buzzwords in the news and on the internet. But again, it's something that's been with us for a long time. Highly resilient people are going to find a way to change course and continue moving forward by doing a couple important things. And those things are recognizing specific and temporary factors that may have contributed to a setback. So that means it's not all about you. It's not all your fault. There are lots of things that go into a situation. And so resilient people are able to look at the big picture and identify that there are other things going on besides your impact on the situation. And then viewing life as a mixture of wins and losses. So instead of having it be winning, losing, winning, losing, it's this sort of amalgamation or melange, as you might say, of winning and losing, and they all kind of come out in the wash. I do want to make sure that we understand what resilience is not, because resilience is not putting up with difficult things or just being stoic, okay? We certainly can get through hard things, and there are certainly times when we want to be stoic, but resilience is really an active opportunity. It's an opportunity to interact with our own lives. So resilience is a little more than being stoic or putting up with difficult things. And we'll talk about a locus of control in a minute. But it also isn't an absence of vulnerability. And again, vulnerability is something we've been talking about a lot over the last few months. So actually being self-aware and being vulnerable is part of being a resilient person. And here we have our stoic man on the left. His nose fell off at some point. I hope that he was resilient during that. So our goals for today, as you'll see on this particular slide, oops. are to recognize our ability to be resilient and learn some ways to strengthen our resilient muscle. Research indicates that resilience can be built. Okay, it is not something we either have or don't have. So there are things that we can do to build our resilience muscle and practice ways to become more resilient. Research also shows the more we use a behavior, the more our neural pathways deepen. So the more we behave in a certain way, the more it becomes habit, and it becomes our go-to way to manage things the more we use it. So practicing these things is a huge part of building resilience. So what creates resilience? Some people are naturally resilient. We do know that there are some genetic compositions where people are a little more resilient. So we do know that. There are also some life circumstances that create resilience. But number 3 is what I want to focus on. We can make choices that create resilience. And some of those choices are using a positive attitude, focusing on our ability to regulate our emotions, and the ability to see failure as feedback. I'm going to show this book, When Smart People Fail, and I'm going to tell a little story for those of you who know Barbara Royal. In 2004, we had Carol Hyatt come to the Momentum program, and here is my dog-eared version. It's all brown, and the pages are turned down, and there's little coffee stains all over it. But Carol Hyatt came and talked about when smart people fail, rebuilding yourself for success. This is what we used to call resilience. We used to call the ability to recognize failures as feedback, and the ability to reinvent yourself based on the information that you now have is a huge part of resilience. So I had a setback, and Carol came, and this book really turned my outlook around. So thanks to Momentum, and thanks to Carol Hyatt and the folks who brought her here. This is a great read. It's not very big. Again, wasn't written yesterday. It was written a while back, but still contains super fantastic information. And she has been a part of the Momentum community. So I really recommend this book and this concept, because this is what resilience is. And you can see it's sort of this flow. It's a mishmash. It's the melange. But here are some of the things that are involved: positivity, engagement, connection. They call it relationships, connection, meaning, finding meaning in your life, achieving. Obviously, achieving is a great part of life, even though it's not everything. And then something that they call vitality, which sometimes we also call physical well-being. So here in this particular slide, they have sleeping and being in nature, doing some yoga, some fruits and vegetables. So they're calling that vitality. I love this depiction of resilience because it's fun. I think it's fun, it's colorful, and there's people doing stuff, but it's also incredibly comprehensive in the areas that build resilience. So the things that I'm going to talk about today are these 6 areas. Now, there are others, so please don't think this is the end-all be-all of resilience, but these are the things that I'm going to talk about today as the way that you can either practice skills that you have or build new skills. So as you can see on the slide, we'll go through each one of these, focusing on what you can control, reframing, active problem solving. There are healthy physical habits, connecting with others, and seeking external care and support when appropriate. So focusing on what you can control. Here's another fun screen that I like. Locus of control is a fancy word for saying, where do you feel like you fit in the world? Are things happening to you, or are you making things happen? So an internal locus of control means that you're in charge of yourself. Some people call that autonomy. And as you can see in the slide, the little person is saying, look what I can do. I can determine my future. I make things happen. That's an internal locus of control. An external locus of control is when you feel that things happen to you. Why does everything happen to me? There's nothing I can do about my future. And the little person is saying, why bother? What we know is that people with internal locus of control are much more resilient. And we'll talk about why that is. So kind of think about how you see the world. An external locus of control is not bad. There's no good or bad in this conversation. But when you make things happen, we know from the research that you have a higher degree or a higher ability for fulfillment. So reframing your thoughts. This is a therapeutic device that I like to use because it shows, or I hope it shows, that thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all interconnected and impact on each other. But the thing is that because you have a thought, it doesn't mean you have to have an emotion or do a behavior. Okay, so this is an A, B, C situation. So when we think about things by becoming aware of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, we have an opportunity to choose. Because we feel distressed, do we have to act out? No, we can make a choice to do something different. And one of those choices is to actively focus on the positive. And one way to do that is by staying in the here and now. Some people have a tendency to do what we call catastrophizing, thinking into the future. Well, what if this and what if that? By staying in the here and now, you can stay much more centered and much more present, and also be in a position to practice some self-compassion. So I know that practicing self-compassion has also been in the headlines, which I am very happy about because I think self-compassion is fantastic. So these are some ways that you can reframe your thoughts by recognizing your power to choose. So thoughts, behaviors, and actions are all interconnected. And I encourage folks to recognize your ability to choose. The next thing we can do is engage in active problem-solving strategies. And everyone has a different way to do this. Some people are list makers, some people are graph makers, some people like to get on the computer and make a spreadsheet. But whatever it is you're doing, you want to be engaged in active problem solving. This is the locus of control. You're taking autonomy over your situation and doing some problem solving. So here are just some little concepts in the idea of problem solving. You want to analyze your problem, set a goal, find a strategy, talk to people, get some information and advice, and then always reach out to your team or your personal team or your professional team, or both, hopefully. So activate those problem-solving abilities that we all have. Practicing healthy physical habits. I want to talk about the importance of sleep. And I know some people might be saying, yeah, I like sleep, not getting so much of it, but sleep is when our brain reboots. Our brain does house cleaning. It does all sorts of things. It's not asleep when we're asleep. It's very active, but it's resetting. It's shedding information that it may not find important, doing other important things. So sleeping is important. And I write sleep disorders in there because what we're finding in the research is that many people have an undiagnosed sleep disorder. Sometimes, again, I'm not a doctor, but sometimes sleep apnea, something along those lines, where your sleep is biologically disturbed and you're just not getting good a sleep. So if your partner tells you you snore, or if you feel that you're not refreshed in the morning, that might be something to talk to your doctor about. Diet and physical activity, definitely. The cleaner our diet and the more we move our body, that's going to add to resilience. And then I put substance use here because there are things out there that can be used to wind down if our brains are going a mile a minute. Just take a look at what substances you're using and why and how much. That's always just kind of a good check-in to do with yourself. It's a part of healthy habits. So our next thing that we can do to be resilient is to connect with others. And humans are social creatures who need connection to survive. Okay. The one of our punishments is solitary confinement, because we're humans, we're connecting. We need this to survive. So it's important to plan that connection into your life. Sometimes it's not spontaneous. So again, you may have to pencil in a lunch with a friend or some other kind of activity. And then this is a great opportunity within your community to practice kindness, compassion, and gratitude for what's going on in your life. It's never a bad time to make a gratitude list, never a bad time. And then my final tip here is to seek external support and care if you're finding yourself distressed by the things that are going on in your life. Neutral third parties, whoever they may be, can assist in perspective taking because they're viewing the situation from outside, and can also help with that active problem solving situation that we talked about. What if you try this, or have you done that, or what does this look like, or what would something being better than what it is now look like? So that's an important part of this process. Great. What I'd love to do at this point in our round table is to get round, and we're going to use some breakout rooms. And I'd love it if you would chat with each other, again, sharing as you feel comfortable. It can be anything from, a flat tire to something big, something better, bigger or different. But when is a time when you have been resilient? Kind of think back to when is a time when you have been resilient, and which element of resiliency helped you the most. What I'd love to do is kind of share when we come back together about which of these elements or how these elements are helping us. Now, I've mentioned focusing on what you can control, thought reframing, active problem solving, physical habits, and connecting with others. There are definitely other parts to resilience. And if you want to throw those out there, that would be fantastic. We'd love to hear them. So we're going to do breakout rooms for 10 minutes. And if you would chat about these questions, and then we're going to come back together. And what I'd love to have happen is have maybe someone from the group or anyone from the group just kind of share what you talked about, and see what we can learn from each other about how to be resilient. Does that sound good, April and Tina? We all okay?
Sounds perfect, Frannie. I was just typing those elements into the chat.
Thank you.
And Tina is gonna break us out into our individual roundtable rooms. And with this number of participants, that may take a few minutes. So just be patient. You should get an invitation to pop up to ask you to go join a roundtable room, and hopefully have a good active discussion in 10 minutes.
Yes.
All right. We're ready. Here we go.
Here we go.
Recording.
And I see people coming back. Great. And keep my eye on the little box. I don't want to start before we have people back. And Tina, you help me too. I still see people coming in.
I love seeing these faces. Hey, Tommy, how are you?
But it's great to be with y'all. You do such a fantastic job.
Thank
Frannie,
you.
I'm really enjoying this. I've been through a lot over the COVID, and this is just a perfect topic. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We have all been through a lot, definitely.
Everyone.
Yes. So practicing kindness and gratitude and compassion with each other is super important too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So glad to
Okay.
have you.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we all might be back. I see that number up, so that's good. I'm going to ask people to be brave and see if somebody or more than one person from each group is willing to share about what you talked about in the group. Did people identify some place where they have been resilient and then their kind of go-to habit?
I can
So
share.
There you, thank you.
Okay,
Suzanne?
I'm Micheline.
Yeah, Micheline, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, I think we've all had crash course in resilience because of the pandemic. And I feel like that a lot of us on this call, I'm sure, were able to thrive during it instead of crashing. And a lot of it has to do with these practices, of focusing on our locus of control. Reframing was a lot of it. On looking at, so having to all of a sudden work from home when you hadn't before was the example that one of the person I was in the room with gave. And it was, you can look at it and focus on, the fact that you're working on a little bitty laptop and you don't really have a desk and a workspace at home. Or you can look at the benefits of, saving money on gas and transportation and being able to go on a walk and everything slowing down to the point where you can really enjoy life. And I thought that was a really, really good example of reframing and focusing on what you can control. So.
Yeah, that is a great example. Thank you so much for sharing. I feel like that's something that we can all resonate with, given that we've all sort of been through the same thing. So reframing and being in the here and now are some things that your group talked about. Is someone else willing to share?
I'd be willing to share.
Great. Thank you. Is this Mara Luz?
Mary Luz, yes. Most people call me Mary. The story that I shared in our breakout group was that of my mother. She's 77, and she recently had a fall where she broke her femur on October 1st. I was going to get her for an appointment, and she didn't answer the call. I went to the apartment, the lights were off. So I kind of panicked a little bit and called 911. When we entered the apartment, she was on the floor, and she had been there for about 6 hours. And so it was very difficult for me to see my mom in that state. And my mind immediately went negative. I started crying. It was like, why? And why can't I have a mom who's healthy like other moms? It just went bad. And so after that, got to the emergency room. They didn't want to let me in because of COVID, things like that. So I cried so much. And then after that, the ER called and allowed me to come in to see my mom. And at that point, I had to change my frame of thinking, my thoughts, because I didn't need my mom to see me that way, and now I have to take care of her. And so my thoughts just started going back to, okay, I need to do this. I need to make sure she's good. I need to make sure they're taking care of her. I have to call my boss, let her know what's going on. I have to, tell my team and let them know what's going on so they know why I'm not present. And I started
active problem solving is what you were doing. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
And then, when I did come into work, when my mom was still in the hospital, I would come into work and kind of leave early. Hey team, this is what's going on, and being able to talk to them kind of, which I call my therapist. They let me, talk to them, and I'm being transparent with them, and they know everything that's going on, so they're understanding, and then I can turn around and be understanding with them when they have a certain situation. But it's been a road, I would say, but just changing my frame of thoughts to not be negative, and understanding that my mom may not be as healthy as other moms, but she's still here. I still have my mom, and she's working so hard to get better. So it's not so much work on me being her primary caregiver. So, and then just focusing on what I can handle for her, and what I can control. So I think I've been pretty resilient in that aspect. So that's my
Yeah,
story.
sounds like you've used all the things we've talked about today. Yeah, you used reframing and active problem solving, and also reaching out to others when you were
Yeah.
communicating with your team and
Mhm.
allowing them to support you.
Yes.
Katie has her hand up.
Thanks, Frannie. I did have my hand up. I'm so proud of myself for figuring out that button. Our group, one of our group members shared that the Serenity Prayer has been helpful. Here, I'll show my face. The Serenity Prayer, and that last line, the wisdom to know the difference, that we do not need to bear the woes of the entire world, and what can we be controlling. So I guess, would that be under reframing from my list?
Yeah, it could be under reframing, or even at knowing what you can control. Definitely making the determination between what can I control and what do I not control. Absolutely.
Right. And then we also talked about when you're making life changes or things are difficult, connecting with others is helpful to decide what might be coming next. And also to know you're not alone. You're not the only person going through whatever it may be. And we talked about how when one door closes and another door opens, that hallway in the middle can be very challenging. So we talked about healthy habits and developing healthy habits as rituals, so that when you do need them, you kind of have to walk the dog, sort of thing. So it was a very helpful list and a great group. Great group.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, all of those things are definitely important. And being in that hallway can be tough. But another element of resilience is recognizing that things aren't permanent, that change is inevitable. And so kind of the only way is through. And that's when you want to reach out to your support network, whoever that might be. So that sounds like that was a great discussion. Another group like to share?
I'll mention a couple of things. I'm a people person. I love to be with people. I find it gives me vitality. I like to think through things with them. I like to have discussion. And, it's really been isolating and lonely through COVID, as thank goodness for Zoom. So we have had some interaction, and, I've come to open up on Zoom and to have conversations like this, which seems so strange to do. But I think the people connection is definitely something that can affect all of these things. You withdraw, and you begin to have unhealthy habits. You feel sorry for yourself. You're worried. You're concerned for your friends and your family. And getting back together, beginning to start that. And I know everyone's in different phases of that. I think being able to connect again is going to help all of these issues. It'll help us focus. It'll help us take our mind off of our problems. And I've been slow to come back due to an autoimmune deficiency that I have, and I've missed that. So I think getting back with others and the connecting part of this is going to be real crucial to returning to normalcy.
Yes, great. Those are great points. I think we've all suffered from a lack of connection, but we found ways. We've been so inventive, and being inventive is the outgrowth of resilience. You know, we're saying, how can we problem solve? How can we get together, even if we can't physically be together? And boy, have we've really knocked it out of the park in terms of making that happen, for sure. And I've heard that from quite a few people that they didn't really realize how much connection impacted their mood and their ability to problem solve until we didn't have it anymore. So thanks, Tommy. Appreciate that. Do we have another group maybe who might like to share?
Hey, I'll
I
share.
can share. Oh, go ahead.
We all want to share.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Barbara. I'm with UAB. We
Barbara.
had a great group. So we had Jacqueline, who's one of our healthcare heroes. And we had Amanda, who's working to support our LGBTQ youth. And then me, I just had a new baby 10 months ago. So had the COVID baby. So with our group, we talked about Jacqueline in healthcare, a lot of adaptability. We talked about pivoting, setting some like realistic expectations, and setting more like short-term goals when it comes to problem solving. And then Amanda, who's working at the Magic City Acceptance Center, she was talking about how every day is kind of a test of their resilience. And they did a lot of pivoting and problem solving, some major problem solving. But she talked a lot about focusing on what you can control. And then for me, having the COVID baby, I felt like a lot of the options were kind of out. So the connection sucked. Healthy habits, no sleep, not taking care of myself, sucked. So for me, I just really had to rely on seeking some external help with like a professional counselor, and working to like reframe and just kind of focusing on gratitude. Like, thank God for this new baby. So glad we made it through IVF. We're here, he's here, hooray. So we had an awesome group and a great chat. And we're all tired of being so resilient, and we just want to kick back with a glass of wine and enjoy.
That's right. We all want to be less resilient. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Barbara. That was great. You really kind of hit all our topics. Definitely. And yeah, if you find yourself struggling to access these tools and tips, as Barbara said, there's lots of external support available that can help guide you to reframing and kind of finding your way out of that hallway into the next door that Katie talked about. So thanks, Barbara. Is it Sherry or Cherie?
Sherry.
Sherry.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Did you want to share Sherry Snow? I was looking at Sherry Hendon.
Three.
Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead and do that.
Okay.
I can share. Yeah. So I'm Sheree Hendon. This is actually my second meeting. I've heard of Momentum for many years, and actually even today I was just like, oh gosh, I've got 9 calls today. About halfway through them, and I'm like, I need this. I need to listen to this. I think we need reminded of things like this all the time. And I had a great group of ladies, Kim and LaShonda, and one point that they brought up was above the line and below the line, try not to get into the weeds of the griping and the complaining part. And, just to try to get out of the ditch effort there and focus on what you can control. And they really liked that scenario that both their companies had talked about before, because it's just really simple and easy to understand. I actually had a moment back in, and I remember this because I still have my little sheet from church. from 2012, and my preacher talked about putting things in God's hands and letting go of some things. I was going through a tough time, and that's one day where I had to kind of go out of the church going like this because I had been crying, because it just really was that moment that was kind of pivotal for me. I was going through a hard time. And one thing the preacher said is stress is man-made. We do this to ourselves. God did not make stress. So I lean on that a good bit and have used it a lot in my daily life as far as going through and when I've come to a lot of challenges. Also, I always tell my team, you know, take a minute to look back from where we came from, because sometimes you see the big mountain and, you know, a lot there left to climb, but we don't take the minute to look back and pat ourselves on the back and tell ourselves that it's okay, and give ourselves a little grace there too. So those are a couple of things we shared together.
Those are terrific points, and it's a great segue for me to talk about two things that I wanted to squeeze into our time together. And I've mentioned one already, but one is a gratitude list. And you can do this formally. You can sit down and get your markers out and you know, have fun being creative and you know, writing down things that you're grateful for, and or you can do it in the elevator on your way to a meeting. You know, you can do a quick gratitude list, and it really is a quick way to reframe in terms of what are things that I'm grateful for, which generally will lead your mind to what are things that are going right in my life. What are things that give me strength, and what are things that keep me together? So a quick gratitude list is an easy pick me up. Another quick pick me up is a list of 5 things I like about myself. So sometimes if you might be going into a stressful meeting or you know, something like that. I'm smart, I'm funny, I get along with people, I'm a good leader, just things that you like about yourself. Again, a quick pick me up, an excellent way to reframe. And it's also a distraction from being nervous if you're feeling nervous. So focusing on some positive emotions there. So thanks, Cherie, for that. Sherry Snow, did you want to share? I apologize for the confusion about having Cherie and Sherry next to each other.
Oh, that's no problem. Sure, I can. And I was in a great discussion with Jessica, and who's here in Birmingham, and Stephanie, who is with TennCare in Nashville. I'm here in Birmingham with American Cast Iron Pipe. And I think we were maybe in rooms by ourselves, and so I joined them after they had started the discussion. But I think we all sort of named reframing as a really useful tool, and focusing on what we can control versus trying to, you know, solve the problems of the universe. And something that had stayed with me that I shared with our group is I was in a vent session with a friend, and she said, "Well, so is that what really happened, or is that the story you're telling yourself?" And that's something that really has stuck with me, and I always remember that as a way of reframing, to sort of step back and not already make decisions on what the outcomes are going to be. And I think that also opens up a lot of options and ways that you can take control. And Jessica and Stephanie, I hope that I represented you guys. Feel free to join in and share anything I missed.
Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate you being willing to share.
And Frannie, I opened up the chat for people to insert what they are grateful for. So if you feel like sharing a couple things that you are grateful for, I think that can lift the general mood.
Look at them all. My sense of humor, yay. Humor, we know the research is showing that when you laugh, your body produces chemicals. The physicality of laughing produces chemicals that boost your brain. So get out there and laugh. Sunrise, dogs, and coffee. Yay, I love that. Health of my family, fall weather. Thank you. Perfect. So yeah. I want to be mindful of our time. I know we all have 9 meetings to go to, so I'm going to just go back one more time here and see what I can do. I do want to thank everyone for being here. I really appreciate your engagement in yourself, and your self-care, and learning about how we can be the best people, moms, dads, family members, team leaders, whatever role you play in your life. Thank you so much. I am honored to have been a guest of Momentum. Again, I really admire the work that Momentum does, and I'm so pleased that I could be a part of it. So I'm going to stop here and turn it back to April for a few parting words, probably.
Oh, Frannie, thank you. Thank you so much. And if you don't mind continuing to share your screen with your contact information, I'm going to make the shameless plug. Frannie is an amazing counselor. And if you would like to carry on this conversation, she is available. She has a team of people that she works with as well. Each have different levels of specialties. And so as Barb was saying, sometimes you need that outside help. Sometimes you need somebody who doesn't have, a dog in the fight. They don't have a personal interest and can be totally impartial. And more than that, they're trained. They're trained professionals. They know what questions to ask to help us to figure out ourselves. So we at Momentum are a huge proponent of outside counseling. It's like having a coach. Why do we stop having coaches when we graduate from high school? Like, if we still need coaches. And so that's what that's about. But thank you all for being here today. Just showing up is big. And continue to be there for each other, especially as things start opening up again. Just know everybody has their story. We've all been through it. On the happy side, food was never in short supply. Deliveries kept happening, and we're not at war. So there's that. So amen. And we just are so glad to have you here today. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. And be safe, be healthy, stay resilient, and may your resilience not be tested infinitely.
Thank you, April. This was awesome. Thanks. Great job, Frannie.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day, y'all.